You can have plenty saved for retirement, no debt, and still feel uneasy about stepping away from work. This is something that I see all the time. People oftentimes assume that once they hit a certain number, that they'll just feel ready. But it rarely works out that way, I find. In fact, I can't tell you how many times that I've talked with someone right in the months, right after they stop working, and instead of feeling excited, they feel anxious. That steady paycheck that they come to rely on for decades is suddenly gone. And it's now up to them to create it, because you really, no matter how much someone has saved, I find it's very normal to wonder, what if I run out of money? Or what if I make a bad decision? Maybe I won't run out of money, but it might cause me to really have to reduce my lifestyle here in retirement. Or on another note, what if I get bored? What if I retire and I'm not sure what I'm going to do every day? All of these are questions that are very, very common. And no matter whether you've saved a few $100,000 or maybe a few $1 million even, I can tell you that anxious feeling, it doesn't just disappear on its own. And after all these years of helping people retire, I completely understand that hesitation. If you're letting go of something familiar, even if you're doing it for something better, it never feels simple. Today, I want to talk about why so many people never feel ready to retire, even when on paper they absolutely could, and what you can do to finally move forward with confidence. And one of the biggest reasons that people never feel ready, even when the numbers say that they are, is something I call the one more year syndrome. It's when someone's financially ready to retire, but every year they tell themselves, hey, I'll just work one more year, just to be safe. That might sound responsible, and sometimes it is, don't get me wrong, but oftentimes it's not about the money at all. It's about uncertainty. When you're working, what's coming. You're getting that paycheck every 2 weeks or however often you would typically get paid. There's structure, there's predictability there. And when that goes away, it can feel uncomfortable. It's kind of like, if you're stepping off a familiar path that you used to for decades, and now you're on this new path and you're not sure of what comes next. And I've seen this play out many times. One client story really stuck with me, and I'll just call him Bob. Bob, he did everything right. He saved diligently for decades. He built up a solid retirement nest egg. He had no debt, but every time we met, he said the same thing. I just want to work one more year to make sure that I'm ready. And when we ran the numbers, he was beyond ready. What he really wanted wasn't another year of savings. He really didn't need it. What he really needed and wanted probably is that confidence to know that the savings and all the income sources that he had, his Social Security, he had a small pension in his case, that he could utilize all this to become the paycheck to meet his expenses and his lifestyle goals in retirement. If you've ever caught yourself saying that, I can tell you you're not alone. Almost every retiree that I meet says the same thing, and it's rarely about the money. And that leads to something that most people don't realize. The reason that this the one more year mindset really is so common is because retirement isn't just about the math. It's about how it feels. This is something that I tell people all the time, and that is that retirement isn't just a financial decision. It's an emotional transition. It's like building a bridge. You don't want to wait until you're halfway across to then test it to see if it's now going to hold up. You want to make sure that it's solid before you take that first step, out on that bridge and start walking there. It's at this moment. This is the moment where you stop earning a paycheck and then you start creating your own. And for many people, that shift feels unnatural. You've spent your whole life saving. You've built up a habit of accumulation. So even spending your own savings, even if you're doing it responsibly, it can feel wrong. When things feel uncertain, we look for numbers to make us feel safe. And that's why so many people focus on the numbers instead of structure. They'll say things like, I'll retire when I hit my goal, this number, this magic number, or I'll retire when the market comes back, or I'll retire when I feel ready. But ready doesn't come from hitting a number. It comes from having a plan, a clear understanding of where your income will come from, how much you'll spend, and then how taxes will affect you along the way. Here's what I always remind people, that the math tells you if you can retire, and the plan tells you how to stay retired. When you know that, your decision shifts from emotional to logical. And that's when retirement finally starts to feel comfortable. And once you start to see retirement as a plan instead of a finish line, you realize that there's just a few key questions that can help to give you the confidence to move forward. So how do you actually know you're ready? Not just financially, but also mentally? Well, there's two key questions I like to walk clients through, and they bring incredible clarity once you've answered them. The first one, very simple. I mean, what does it really take to live your ideal lifestyle? What do you need to spend? And then what do you want to spend to make that lifestyle possible? Because retirement isn't just about covering the basics. It's about making sure that you can actually enjoy the years ahead without constantly worrying about running out of money. And the second question is, where will your income come from and how much of it will go to taxes? So once the paycheck stops, you need to know exactly which account you'll draw from, how much of that income you'll actually keep after taxes. And that's when things start to click. You begin to see your retirement not as a question mark, but as a plan. And when you can answer those two questions, you move from hoping you'll be okay to knowing you will be. Now, not immediately, but that's the start, to help give you that confidence. Hey, this is what I need to have the lifestyle that I want to have. This is how much it's going to cost me. And really outlining, okay, these are the different income sources, and this is the money that I have. These are the accounts. These are how taxes going to affect me. This is the starting point to help give that confidence that you'll have what you need throughout retirement. I remember a couple I worked with, and I'll just call them Mike and Linda. They were both 64. They were planning to retire sometime soon. Now, they've been saying that for 2 years. And they, in their case, they had built a really strong foundation. I mean, they had years of consistent savings. They had no mortgage. They had, good spending habits. But every time we talked, they'd say, we're just not sure we're ready. They told me that they both always pictured working until 67, since that's their full retirement age for Social Security. It was just something they had in their heads. I mean, they didn't need to work until their full retirement age of Social Security, but for whatever reason, that was in their heads that is something that they should do. When we looked at their plan closer, though, I mean, there really wasn't a financial reason for it. It was just a mindset. It was something that felt safe and familiar to them. And I remember, Mike said it just feels strange to start taking money out after so long, after all these years of just putting money in, accumulating money over the years, basically. And when he said this to me, I knew it wasn't just about the math. It was about confidence. But once they saw their plan laid out and how their income and taxes and spending all worked together, everything changed for them. Mike looked at me and said, we've been working for an extra 2 years when we didn't need to. And they retired a few months later. And I recall meeting with them a few months after that. And I remember Linda saying something like, I didn't realize how much mental space was tied up in worrying about whether we could retire. It wasn't about the numbers changing. It was about how they felt about them. And that's what clarity does. It turns uncertainty into confidence. And that's also when the mindset starts to shift, because retirement isn't really about stopping. It's about what comes next. The truth is that retirement isn't the end. It's a beginning. You're not quitting work. You're shifting your purpose. Instead of structure coming from your job, it comes from your time, your routines, your priorities. And that's why I always tell people that you don't want to just plan for your income in retirement. You want to plan for your days. Think about how you'll spend your time, who you'll spend it with, and what gives your days meaning. Because when your money plan and your life plan work together, you stop worrying about whether you can retire and start thinking about how you actually want to live. And for most people, the best part isn't the day that they retire. It's the first time that they realize everything that they work for is finally now working for them. And when that moment finally sinks in, when your lifestyle feels supported and your time feels free, that's when it clicks. They're finally living the life that they spent years preparing for. So if you've been saying one more year, maybe this is the time for you to ask yourself whether it's money holding you back or if it's just uncertainty. And if that sounds familiar, it might not be because you're missing something financially. It might be because you're missing the clarity that helps you to feel secure. And with a clear income strategy, a tax plan, and a thoughtful transition plan, you can replace uncertainty with confidence. And if you'd like to talk through your numbers and see whether you're already closer than you might think, click on the link below. Schedule a free retirement strategy call with me, learn more about how I work and all of that. And then we'll go through your plan together and make sure that you feel confident about what comes next.